There we go. So having an understanding of Kabbalah you're what you're going to see is this really cool principle that is somewhat universal. It's biblical, in fact. The Mosaic Law says that from the mouth of two or three witnesses shall all truth be established. And so, if you were to have a complaint against somebody in ancient times, you and two other friends would have to step up and go, no, this guy's a complete douchebag, and this is why, and this is how he ripped off my cattle or whatever. Well, in the same sense, I'm going to point out over centuries, different witnesses that are all talking about the same thing. And the idea that, as we see in this image, let's see if I can find, here we go. And let's pop that one up really quick and share it. Boom, here we go. So when you see, stop that. I hate that little box shows up. Do you see that
Oh,
little
yeah.
box? And it always shows up. I thought it was just for me, but it's for everyone, and I don't know why it pops up. But this idea is going to be expressed elsewhere as well. But these seven spheres represent the seven governors or seven rings that are a component of consciousness. But to understand that, we have to study the vision of Poimandres, which is what we're going to do. So, and what the divine Poimandre is. But before we get to that, we're going to talk just a little bit about Hermes, and I'm going to spell it because we're going to talk about how to say it. It's Thoth, which has been pronounced Thoth, Thoth, Thought, Taught, and let's see what the text says because it's helpful to understand. It could be any one of those, but it's not Thoth or Thoth. It's not. When you turn, let's, so frustrated. I just literally bought this book and so, because we're going to be using it, this the Secret Teachings of All Ages, right? Just got it from Amazon, and the pages are all falling out. I'm
Uh,
just like, no, because the perfect binding didn't get complete glue. If you happen to have this one right here, um, oh, then let me switch screens. If
that
you
a
happen to have
hardcover?
that one, we're on page 62. It's this guy right here.
Yeah.
So if you don't, then I will pull it up right over here so that we can all quickly take a look at it. So in the Sacred Text Archive, if you scroll up, it's under page 40, and it's one, two, three, four, five paragraphs down from that page mark there. And Hermes asks if all men did not have minds, is the beginning here. And so as we continue, the great dragon replied, take heed what you say, for I am the mind, the eternal teacher. I am the father of the word, redeemer of all men. And in the nature of the wise, the word takes flesh. By means of the word, the world is saved. I thought, and then parenthetically the name, thought, the father of the word, the mind. So it makes sense. It sticks in your brain because thought is, when you think, that is the messenger of the gods, right? The idea, the speed of thought, the fact that you can be inspired and have new thinking, the importance of our mind as rational beings, and the idea of reason being of extraordinary importance, that's all part of this vision. Okay, so thought, thought. That's my argument. I'm going to stick by it. But if you see that word, it's Thoth Hermes Trismegistus. So, and he's thrice great for a whole slew of reasons, depending upon how you wish to look at him. But typically, he is the greatest of the greatest philosophers, kings, and priests. So, and if you've gone through any kind of ordination work or any kind of uh, work esoterically in communities, Sometimes you might elevate to elder status and be then shown to be a king and a priest unto yourself, meaning that you have ecclesiastical and secular authority over your actions because your consciousness is elevated to the point where that is now possible. So anyway, so let's take a look at you can look at the history of this document in the front part. I sort of feel like Tank in the Matrix, where it's like that's sort of okay, but it's sort of boring. I mean, you can go through the exciting stuff is in the vision. And the reference to this vision and the character of the dragon is across so many cultures, it's staggering. But one of my favorite references to it happens to come in the movie Excalibur, the 1982 version. And so I want to share that quickie scene with you because this is where, to set the scene up, um,
What are you afraid of?
I don't know.
Shall I tell you what's out there?
Yes, please.
The dragon. A beast of such power that if you were to see it whole and all complete in a single glance, it would burn you to cinders.
Where is it?
It is everywhere. It is everything. Its scales glisten in the bark of trees. Its roar is heard in the wind, and its forked tongue strikes like... Oh, like lightning. Yes, that's it.
How can I... What should I... Must I...
Do nothing. Be still. Sleep. Rest in the arms of the dragon. Dream.
okay. Anyway, when I first came across the Vision of Poimandres, that particular movie is what really stuck in my head, especially that scene where Merlin is essentially educating. He's giving him an esoteric endowment. This is his first initiation, right, into the mysteries.
What
Getting,
does he say on there? I couldn't catch it. Be still,
oh, be still, and he says sleep, dream, and
rest in the arms of the dragon.
yes, and rest in the arms of the dragon. So, and the first initiation is a recognition that is a thing, that it exists at all, that it's there. And when he has his vision and he's seeing all the animals, the thing to realize is that one of these things is not like the other, and the thing which is different is us, that we reason, that we have reason, that we think thoughts of a rational nature, whereas all the other creeping things and stuff are functioning largely on instinct. They're irrational. I mean, their actions can be reasoned by us, but they're not actually necessarily, bugs don't necessarily think their way through the leaf that they're chewing on, as far as we know. And certainly the complexity of their reason is nowhere near what ours is. So we have the option to interface with greater consciousness because we can become aware that there is in fact something of greater consciousness. So let's take a look here. So this vision, by the way, the vision of Poimandres is everywhere. And the we're going to hop around in it just a little bit. I had thought, I don't know, there's so much here. This could take a while. It depends on you guys if you want to kind of inch our way through it, or if we want to kind of do a flyby and maybe come back a second pass. I'm willing to do whatever you feel most comfortable with in terms of this material because of its depth. Any suggestions? What would you guys like to do?
I wonder if there's a way to have the Zoom calls, but then have further discussion I don't know, on Discord or
Oh, for sure.
something.
Yeah, you mean like a written discussion or just an actual discussion?
I don't know. Either way.
Well, what we'll do is we're gonna just we'll take it slow. We'll
Yeah,
go through.
written's kind of good because then people can jump in when they're available if not everyone's available to, be present on a timeline.
Oh, makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, good input. All right, so let's take a look. We're going to start over here and scroll up to let's see. All right, so let's begin with, and let me share this screen with you guys. All right, the Vision is the most famous of all Hermetic fragments. God, that thing just keeps popping up. Let's see, and it came. I got to switch my glasses. I apologize. Otherwise, oh yeah, that's better. Closer. Okay. Let's see here. Question really is, which way do I want to read this? I'm going to read it this way. All right, guys. So Hermes is hanging out in a rocky, desolate place. That's where this vision begins. Right here. Hermes, while wandering in a rocky and desolate place. This is metaphoric. I guess you know what I really should do? I'm going to point out something that he puts at the very, very end of this chapter, which I kind of think should have been at the front end of the vision. The Vision of Hermes, like nearly all Hermetic writings, is an allegorical exposition of great philosophic and mystical truths. Its hidden meaning may be comprehended only by those who have been raised in the presence of the true mind. So that gives you a sense of what you need. What does that mean to be raised in the presence of the true mind? It begins with awareness that the true mind exists and that you are not separate from it. Those two elements are essential. If you believe that there is separation between you and the divine, then you can't make contact and you become sort of like Narcissus, where he's looking at his reflection in the water but can never actually touch it. And by the way, I'm going to touch on Narcissus later because that myth, the myth of Narcissus and Echo, relate to this material as well as a component of the creation. So Hermes is wandering around in this place and he begins to go through a meditation exercise, one which is designed to help separate the body and the mind so that the mind may become free to move, right? And what this is a process of eliminating certain senses. If we can go into greater detail on this meditative process later, but the idea is that you work your way through from the sense of, you close your eyes, so vision's eliminated. You concentrate on eliminating the sense of touch or feeling by, there's a way to do that, where you stop feeling the chair you're sitting on necessarily or the ground you're sitting on. And as you work through the various physical senses and essentially eliminate them, what remains is the mind. In the 70s and partly into the 80s, they experimented with this idea in isolation tanks where you would float in a saline solution, remain buoyant. And they found that by doing that, you could accelerate this process to a high degree, causing people to have all kinds of visions. It's pretty extraordinary. The movie Altered States with William Hurt is built right on that whole phenomenon that was taking place during the 70s. So, and it's a really extraordinary movie if you're into science fiction. Altered States with William Hurt, pretty amazing. It's it's Hollywood, but it does have some stuff in there that you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And as you understand this, you'll understand the process that main character goes through, because in the end, he has contact with everything and begins to get swallowed up. I don't want to ruin the movie, but anyway, so you'll have to spoilers, it's only like a 40-year-old movie. So anyway. All right. So Hermes then, in his vision, he sees a great dragon. And it says, the great dragon called Hermes by name and asked him why he thus meditated on the world mystery. Terrified by the spectacle, Hermes prostrates himself before the dragon, beseeching it to reveal its identity. The great, uh, the great creature answered that it was Poimandres, the mind of the universe, the creative intelligence, and absolute emperor of all. Now, he points in here parenthetically that Schuler identifies this as the god Osiris. I I get frustrated sometimes. There are certain intersections with ancient divinities that mythologically we know how they were treated by regular people at the time, but then later we reinterpret some of those gods as being a component of something else. So you'll see several times within this text that Osiris is equivocated to a resurrecting sun god. My only counter to that is that typical resurrection involves complete and total functionality. But when Osiris is resurrected, he in fact is not complete and totally functional. He's missing a part, and that has to be supplemented. Also, he's depicted as being immobile because he's still half mummified, which suggests that he's in a fixed place as opposed to being motile. Like, for instance, Balder the Brave, Balder the Beautiful, here's another guy who's resurrected, who's tied to the sun, and clearly when he's resurrected, he's a total package, and usually you're looking for things like that, that resurrection means complete and total. It doesn't mean the other. So in that case, I just, it's my own bone to pick with this. You'll find as you get through this material that there are a lot of folks out there that are on either side of it. And does it matter? I don't know, but I just thought I'd throw that out because he does mention it. Hermes then besought Poimandres to disclose the nature of the universe and the constitution of the gods. The dragon acquiesced, bidding Trismegistus hold its image in his mind. So when reading visions, prophetic or otherwise, almost always when you engage in a greater power, there's a series of questions that could be asked of you in your meditation. Like, why are you here? Why are you trying to part the veil and see what you want to see? If mere curiosity is sufficient, we're told repeatedly, if you lack wisdom, ask, and it will be supplied to you. So the point of that is that in your personal life, if you are seeking greater insight and knowledge and you become frustrated because of the nature of some of these texts and whatnot, you can calm yourself and appeal to the source of intelligence that provided this inspiration for this text and gain insights. I do that all the time myself because I find myself, I've read through this particular vision probably 50 times now. And there it just keeps revealing itself to me as I do because of what's in here, the density of the material and the fact that what I'm trying to do is pattern for you as we stop and take breaks, that is appropriate when reading through something like this, to pause and go, ah, so Poimandres is the mind of the universe, creative intelligence, absolute emperor. Those are all co-equivalent. They're not ranked against each other. They're each describing the same thing using different forms of expression. But the mind of the universe and creative intelligence are the same. It's just different ways of describing the same thing, adding extra depth to that description. So um, let's move down just a little bit here. Okay, we'll go back up. So immediately the form of Poimandres changed. Where it had stood, there was a glorious and pulsating radiance. This light was the spiritual nature of the great dragon itself. Understanding what light is will become pivotal to what you do, like where it comes from, what light is about, and what darkness is about. The nature of light and darkness and how they work together. That light is spirit and darkness is material stuff. That when we become infatuated with our physical reality, we are literally trapped in darkness. Because we are ascribing value to things which have no eternal value, because anything which is clad within darkness and material is mortal, and anything which is spirit is immortal. So we are an immortal being clad within a mortal framework, right? Okay, so, and this is part of what this vision is about. So continuing, read from down here. Presently, the great darkness descended and expanded, swallowed up the light. Everything was troubled. About Hermes swirled a mysterious watery substance which gave forth a smoke like vapor. The air. This, by the way, is a description of his meditative descent. Okay, the he's describing um, the unveiling of the universe, like all of the things which are standing in the way. These things begin to get peeled away from him, but before that can happen, he's in it. All right. Um, Presently, a great darkness descended and expanded, swallowed up the light. Everything was troubled. About Hermes swirled a mysterious watery substance which gave forth a smoke like vapor. The air was filled with inarticulate moanings and sighings which seemed to come from the light swallowed up in the darkness. His mind told Hermes that the light was the form of the spiritual universe, and that the swirling darkness which had engulfed it represented material substance. So one might suggest then that the groaning and moaning was the spirit being shackled within temporal fabric. So that the which can, and every vision, it's always kind of the same too, where when they see the spirit clad within material, there's always like this, moaning and groaning and things. And I always think of the word that comes to mind is samsara, which is that eternal cycle of sadness. So the moaning and the material descent, or the descent into materia, creates for us a separation which results in sadness, right? And the more that we aspire to material gains, the sadder we become. Um, so the more we accumulate that on us, the less likely we are to have true joy. So continuing out, then out of the imprisoned light, a mysterious and holy word came forth and took its stand upon the smoking waters. This word, capital W, the voice of the light, rose out of the darkness as a great pillar, and the fire and air followed after it. But the earth and water remained unmoved below. Thus the waters of light were divided from the waters of darkness, and from the waters of light were formed the worlds above, and from the waters of darkness were formed the worlds below. Okay, this should ring a bell for you biblically, because this is the separation of the waters and the waters and a firmament being created in the midst of them, so that you have greater clarity now when you read that Bible passage. You're recognizing that there's a spiritual water of fire and air, which is up above, and a material water of earth and water, which is on below. And the one represents spirit and the other represents matter. And in between the two are formed everything. The entire cosmos then is formed between the joining of the two in the firmament, which we can see every day when we look out at night, because the stars are the firmament. And that's really important later, because that idea of firmament becomes the eighth sphere, which we'll talk about. But and there are seven, but then there's an eighth one. And the idea of those spheres of creation are brought out in that image that I shared with you, with the seven little things, but also within the Divine Comedy of Dante. When he and so we'll get to that. I don't want to steal my own thunder, but because I have a great picture that illustrates those spheres and how it all works together. All right, so moving along here. Thus the waters, okay, I got that. And okay, the earth and the water next mingled. Oh, going back up. So boom, 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 boom. I should probably make sure we're on the same here too. And give me just a moment. I lost my place on the Okay, yep, here we are. Boom, right in this section here. So then out of the imprisoned light, a mysterious holy word came forth, and it took its stand upon the smoking waters. So we just finished that. Thus the waters of light were divided from the waters of darkness, and from the waters of light were formed the worlds above, and from the waters of darkness were formed the worlds below. The earth and water next mingled, becoming inseparable, and the spiritual word, which is called reason, moved upon their surface, causing endless turmoil. So that whole section, I guess I could just grab it. That whole concept is actually spoken of right here in your Old Testament. So in we're looking at verse 3. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. So the light from the darkness is this separation, right? Um, and the light he called day, and the darkness he called night, and there was an evening and morning of the first day. And God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So now you know what all that means. Like, I know that that's a big stumbling block for a lot of folks. When they read the Bible, they're like, what is this talking about? That separation of water from water and this vault is part of this vision. It is part of the creative process. It's an indication of the organization of the universe, which begins as a monad, begins as a singular thing, which then divides itself. And as a result of that division, it creates other divisions for other aspects of its own functionality. So that part of the functionality is the word, and later we're going to discover a new person called the workman. And we're going to discover another aspect called the son of striving. Each of these personifications are literally that. They are a personification of a function. It's like saying the campfire has its own life to it, right? It burns and moves and dances and requires no one to intercede in what it does. And so by virtue of its life, its burning, its consumption of fuel and oxygen, which is basically what everything else does, right? Because that's all you do. You eat food and then you consume it and burn it and keep hot and warm. And in the same concept, then that you can personify the campfire and call it Bob or something, or Calcifer if you want, referencing a really great anime. Um, and and uh, and by naming it, you also describe an aspect to it, and you limit it, because once you name a thing, it is that thing and nothing else. So it encapsulates it. what's interesting is the process of naming um, and limitation is also a component of death. Like, because it stops being everything and starts being something else. And so and that aspect of death is not a negative. It's an aspect of when something is separated like that, it must be rejoined in order to be complete and then have eternal life, right? If you're separated from it, then that's not possible. You are mortal. If you lose the aspect that provides mortality, you become unnamed as you work your way up, right? Because you are now joining the all. Then that's that. I hope I'm not complicating this too much. So this aspect then that you read here biblically is described here in this text as a separation of the function of the universe, that the universe was once all things and then there was light and darkness, but the darkness is still light. It's just dark light, which we call material, we call matter. Okay. All right. So continuing on, any questions? Are we doing okay? Step by step? This good? Okay. If I need to stop, please raise your hand or something, or if you wish to share something, by all means, raise your hand. Okay. All right. So continuing on, then out of the imprisoned light, a mysterious and holy word came forth and took its stand upon the smoking waters. This word, the voice of the light, rose out of the darkness as a great pillar, and the fire and the air followed after it. But the earth and the water remained unmoved below. Thus the waters of light were divided from the waters of darkness, and from the waters of light were formed the worlds above, and from the waters of darkness were formed the worlds below. The earth and water next mingled, becoming inseparable. Sorry, I repeated all this. Then again was heard the voice of Poimandres, but his form was not revealed. I, thy God, am the light and mind which were before substance was divided from spirit and darkness from light. Okay, so you notice how I kind of circled back and said it all starts as a monad, and then it divided and divided and divided. That's Poimandres explaining that process. And the word which appeared as a pillar of flame out of the darkness is the Son of God, born of the mystery of the mind. The name of that word is reason. Reason is the offspring of thought, and reason shall divide light from the darkness and establish truth in the midst of the waters. So that's that it means that what we do, what we think, the fact that we become enlightened is an expression of that greater spiritual consciousness that is within all of us. So it gives weight to the greeting namaste, which is I acknowledge the divine within you, right? Boom. And you within me. Like you see that when we provide that. Um, and it is an enlightened greeting, right? It's more than just a greeting, it's an attitude that is founded in this understanding. Okay, switching my glasses. Just keep it like this. Reason is the offspring of thought, and reason shall divide the light from the darkness and establish truth in the midst of the waters. Understand, O Hermes, and meditate deeply upon the mystery. That which you see, that which in you sees and hears is not of the earth, but is the word of God incarnate. This is super duper important. A lot of times, okay, anciently, the pharaoh was seen as the actual physical incarnation of God on earth, right? So where does this idea come from other than absolute ego? This idea comes from this principle right here, this principle, that the thing within us that allows us to think, allows us to reason, allows us to be artistic, creative, to be inquisitive, to pursue things which cannot be held in one's hands, like ideas, and express those ideas with one's hands or one's mouth in art or writing or teaching or music. Any of these things become an expression of the divine that is within us, that is cultivated by our pursuit of that light. So the more that you pursue that light, the more light aggregates to you. And in time, you, as the text will reveal later, you are then protected by the light. The light will stand as a bouncer, doorman, to prevent things of darkness from getting to you. So much wonderful stuff in this vision, but let's continue. All right. Um, Reason is the offspring of thought, and reason shall divide the light from the darkness and establish truth in the midst of the waters. Understand, O Hermes, and meditate deeply upon the mystery. That which in you sees and hears is not of the earth, but is the word of the incarnate, is the word of God incarnate. So it is said that divine light dwells in the midst of mortal darkness, and ignorance cannot divide them. The union of the word and the mind produces that. Can you guys hear my dogs barking? No? Good. Oh, good. Good microphone. It's actually taking care of my dogs are losing their mind at the delivery guy right now. So glad. Okay, sorry about that. Well, you can't hear it, but it's super distracting. All right, Pickles, no growling. We're getting a delivery right now. All righty, back to the class. Understand, O Hermes, and meditate deeply upon the mystery. That which in you. Okay, I've already covered that. You're gonna have to give me a moment. I need to quiet my dogs down. Hang on just a second. There we go. Good girl. All right, back to sharing the screen. All right, and the light and the fire which rise are divine, are the divine man ascending. I went too far. Sorry about that. The union of the word and the mind produces the mystery which is called life. Okay, so reason and mind. I'm going to pause periodically just to give us some like foundation. If I were to sit here and look at the tree of life, where would I find reason and mind? Ah, mind is if, well, you know what, I'm not going to distract from that. We'll come to the tree in a moment. Let's continue because I want to get some headway here. We got some super meat coming up here. Okay, let's see. The union of the word and the mind produces that mystery which is called life. As darkness without you is divided against itself, so the darkness within you is likewise divided. The light and the fire which arise are the divine man. We're going to talk about the divine man shortly. Ascending in the path of the word. The path of the word is a reverse lightning strike up the tree of life. We're going to cover that as well. And that which fails to ascend is the mortal man. This is the division which takes place at death. So when you die, your mortal framework, which is a component of your total consciousness, because remember the water and the earth are mushed together. That's what make us. We're basically water and earth together. And then we are quickened by spirit, right? So air and fire quickens us. When we are separated from the mortal framework, then the divine man within us then ascends. And I'm using man in the framework. Later, we're going to discover the divine man is hermaphroditic or bisexual. So we'll get there. Okay. Rise of the divine man ascending in the path of the word, reverse lightning strike up the tree. And that which fails to ascend is the mortal man, which may not partake of immortality. Learn deeply of the mind and its mystery, for therein lies the secret to immortality. The dragon again revealed its form to Hermes, and for a long time the two looked steadfastly one upon the other, eye to eye. This always makes me think of that one passage from Paul that talks about looking through a glass darkly, and how now in our mortal life we see in a mirror darkly, meaning that it is indistinct. But once we pass through that, through mortality, then we shall see our creator face to face. So Hermes looking at Poimandres and just staring face to face at him is reminiscent of that passage. Um, and the evolution of one's consciousness through this process. Okay. uh oh, we're so close to the really super good stuff. Not that this stuff hasn't been super good, but I am so excited about what's coming next. Hermes beheld the spirits of the stars, the celestials controlling the universe. Oh, backing up one. uh At the word of the dragon, the heavens opened, and innumerable light powers were revealed, soaring through the cosmos on pinions of streaming fire. Hermes beheld the spirits of the stars, the celestials controlling the universe, and all those powers which shine with the radiance of the one fire, the glory of the sovereign mind. Hermes realized that the sight which he beheld was revealed to him only because Poimandres had spoken a word. The word was reason, and by the reason of the word, invisible things were made manifest. Divine mind, the dragon, continued its discourse. All right. Before the visible universe was formed, its mold was cast. This mold was called the archetype. And this archetype was in the supreme mind long before the process of creation began. So where can we find this archetype? Right here. This is the archetypal world, right here at the top of your tree of life, right here. Archetypal world. And the description of the Father, the Son, and the workman would be Keter, the Father, Chokmah, the Son, clearly, and then the workman is Binah, who then later becomes one of the seven governors. All right. But in the archetypal world, these are the three hermaphroditic expressions of divine creative consciousness. All right. So, and how they interact with each other becomes very clear. Um, the the sun, when the sun begins to move through the cosmos, it creates fire. And that fire then gains a name. Remember, we were talking about how you could take a campfire and then give it a name. So that fire of creative process becomes the sun of striving. And the workman, um, which is in Saturn, which is Binah, okay, the workman works with the sun of striving. The sun of striving creates fire, which generates light. The workman creates vibration as a result of its friction, and friction, vibration is sound, right? So, and that creates heat. So between the two, you get the universe manifesting. One is light, one is vibration, so light and sound. If you wanted to quantify the upper portion, the archetypal world, you could say that the archetypal world is comprised of thought, which would be Keter, light, which would be Chokmah, and sound, which is Binah. So those three elements then make everything that becomes everything. All right. So back to here. This is good stuff, right? No, I'm such a geek. I love this stuff so much. It is just super, like, at this point, now Kabbalah should really be like, it will kick in for you because you'll be like, oh, I get it. So we're talking about the archetypal world. And this is just a narrative description of everything that we've been talking about by using the tarot and breaking down the tree, and the tarot being our guide. Okay, so as a visual description, later we talk about the tarot, and that is in fact perhaps one of the greater books that we have access to. Okay. Hmm. So we're down here. Um, Beholding the archetypes, the supreme mind became enamored with its own thought. So taking the word as a mighty hammer, it gouged out caverns in primordial space and cast the form of the spheres in the archetypal mold. Okay, so where can we see a picture of that? Well, right. Oh, where did my dudes go? Nope, not here. And these guys. Share that screen. Boom. So right here, then, what you're getting, especially when you look at these three images right here, okay, at the bottom, this is a description then of the creator, the workman, pounding out these seven spheres. They're all showing you. They're like, check out what I'm building. Look, right here. This is this thing. The others are demonstrating, the ones on the top are demonstrating that everything comes from the mind, the eternal mind. And so it sprouts out of their heads as an expression of universal force. So it just really depends on the culture and who's teaching what. But the fact that each of them are showing you these seven forms, and that these seven forms are an expression of a creative process, that the process could be thought directly from the mind of the divine, which you see at the top, or it could be an expression of workmanship. Behold, I have hammered this stuff out of cosmic everything, and here it is. Okay, so it's just super cool. I just love this stuff so much. All right, share, get back to there. So the darkness below, receiving the hammer of the word, was fashioned into an orderly universe. The elements separated into strata, and each brought forth living creatures. The supreme being, the mind, male and female, brought forth the word, and the word, suspended between light and darkness, was delivered of another mind called the workman, the master builder, or the maker of things. And so if you look back at the tree, okay, and we go back to the tree here. Let's use this one right here. That's a better. Okay. So you go back to the tree. If you can in your mind turn the upper triangle so that in a way the Chokmah is in the middle, just kind of pivot it in your head, right? So Keter's up here, Binah rolls underneath, and Chokmah is in that middle space. You can get a visualization then of that process. Chokmah being the sun or the word of God, which then is creating all of the things in between the two beds of water, the water of light and the water of darkness, right? And that's why also Chokmah can function within mildness, right? As a gray feature as opposed to the complete light, because it's functioning between the two. So if you've got white and black here, then in the middle is that stratification going on in the center. So that's a description of what we have. That's a description of then what we're seeing in Kabbalah right here. Okay, workman is Binah. Another way to look at Binah as Saturn is Brahma, the creator god, right? From which everything is built and made. And the Brahman is the person who opens his eyes and the universe manifests, and then the eyes close and the universe goes away, and then it manifests and goes. So it's that cycle, which is eternal, a cycle that requires a combined effort between these three forces. Okay. Okay, back to, and we're gonna do more next week. Okay, we're not in all the way yet, and there's so much. Like I could keep going, but we're at the hour point. We can go a little bit longer if you guys want to, if you have the time. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up. Let me know. Nod your head. Thumbs up for a few more minutes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. A few more minutes we go because we're getting into the really cool stuff. Ah, it's all really cool stuff. All right. The master builder or maker of things. In this manner it was accomplished, O Hermes. The word moving like a breath through space called forth the fire by its friction of its motion. Therefore, the fire is called the sun of striving. The workman passed through as a whirlwind through the universe, causing the substances to vibrate and glow with its friction. So the one creates fire and gives you the impression of light. The other is vibration. So light and sound working together simultaneously result in the creation of all things. The sun of striving thus formed 7 governors, the spirits of the planets. So now we know we have a reference to the astrological world and planets. So these 7 governors are in fact the 7 primary spheres that we can find within the tree of life right here. Switch back. So the 7 governors would be right here, specifically, oh, that's so annoying. Yesod, Hod, Netzik, Tipperet, Gevurah, Chesed, and Binah. Those are your 7 governors right there. And each one of these have an aspect that relate to your personal human consciousness or the functionality of your mortal existence. When it talks about the creation of things, it it does so in stages which also are simultaneous. It's kind of a weird way to grasp it, but it's instantaneous. We're given this kind of a chronological, we started here in the archetypal world and we made all these things and then we hammered it out. But in relation to eternity, it's all happening now at the same time. It's continuous, which is part of what makes it eternal. Is for us, it's forever. And so going back. This shall continue. Okay. The second mind, together with the risen word, established itself. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Sorry. The sun of striving thus formed the 7 governors, the spirits of the planets, whose orbits bounded the world, and the 7 governors controlled the world by the mysterious power called destiny, given them by the fiery workman. So, destiny. This there are multiple instances here where one may call into question one's actual agency, or as being a free agent? How much power do we have if there are in place things outside of ourselves which influence every decision that we might make? These are the seven governors that were established at the beginning, and they were given a thing called the power of destiny, which we understand to mean that if something is destined to happen, it is certain. It's going to happen. So if I drop my cup of coffee right now, for sure it's going to hit the table and splash all over me. That's destiny. It's destiny in this sense is that things are put into motion, and if you understand all the processes that involve the continuation of their motion, you can understand where everything will be at any given time. So, and what it will be doing. Destiny. When the second mind, the workman, had organized chaos, the word rose straightway out of its prison of substance, meaning that the word was clad and embedded within the irrational world. Now we're going to see this expressed more than once in different ways, but at this point, the idea is that the word infused materia, and then when everything was in place, the word withdrew from that, leaving only irrational elements, meaning things that do not think for themselves. Okay? Um, then the second mind, together with the risen word, established itself in the midst of, backing up, sorry. Um, the word of God rose straightway out of its prison of substance, leaving the elements without reason, and joined itself to the nature of the fiery workman. Then the second mind, together with the risen word, established itself in the midst of the universe, and whirled the wheels of celestial powers. This shall continue from infinite beginning to infinite end, for the beginning and the ending are in the same place and state. So I always think of um, the movie Dark Crystal. There's a point where Ogra is educating Gen. Anyway, and she points out, she's like, end, beginning, it's all the same, you know, because it is. Then the downward turn then the downward turned and unreasoning elements brought forth creatures without reason. Substance could not bestow reason, for reason had ascended out of it. The air produced flying things. So this is your biblical section, right? Again, where various elements are come from the earth, and things are created which are different from man. So if using the biblical text, we understand that there's a whole process of creation where life comes out of the ocean, life is in the air, there are creepy, crawly things. All of these things do not possess the reason that the divine mind wishes to imbue upon a special creation. That's why after everything is done, then man is invested and created. And the idea of man being created from clay is again a restatement of that combination of the eternal spirit that is within us being housed within a mortal framework. So that's what that's about. Um, then the downward turn, okay, we'll finish that. The earth conceived strange four-footed and creeping beasts, dragons, composite demons, and grotesque monsters. Then the Father, the Supreme Mind, being light and life, fashioned a glorious universal man in its own image, not an earthy man, but a heavenly man, dwelling in the light of God. The Supreme Mind loved the man it had fashioned and delivered him to the control of the creations and workmanships. So we're going to see a dual creation. The first one is this one, which is the spiritual creation that could be said, since God exists within the archetypal world, it begins there, right? And then that creation, when man is delivered, that shows the first descent of spirit. Here you are, I've made you, I've fashioned you, and now you get to go into the system, which is ready for you, which is governed by these seven governors who have the power of destiny. And it explains all of the different things like Shakespeare and talking about star-crossed lovers and Romeo and Juliet and stuff. All of that is a component of this destiny that is the product of our investiture into a mortal system. Okay, the man desiring to labor took up his abode in the sphere of generation and observed the works of his brother, the second mind. So we're still up here in the archetypal world, right? Because he's hanging out with his brother, the second mind, which which the second mind is the workman, which sat upon the ring of fire. And having beheld the achievements of the fiery workman, he willed also to make things, and his father gave permission. The seven governors, of whose powers he partook, rejoiced, and each gave man a share of its own nature. Okay, so astrologically speaking, this is then talking about how when you do your natal chart, each planet has a different influence in the stamping or generation or creation of your conscious state. So it's they each play a role. So when you see the governors um, give us a share of their own nature, that is a description of they have certain qualities which then we may also possess by virtue of our birthright, the point at which we came into this world. The supreme mind loved the man. Let's back up here. Oh, I lost my place. Oh, okay, got it. The man longed to pierce the circumference of the circles and understand the mystery of him who sat on the eternal fire. Having already all power, he stooped down and peeked through the seven harmonies, breaking through the strength of the circles, made himself manifest to nature, stretched out below. The man, looking into the depths, smiled, for he beheld a shadow upon the earth and a likeness mirrored in the waters, which shadow and likeness were a reflection of himself. This immediately drew my mind to the myth of Narcissus and Echo. Echo was cursed as a result of passing gossip around, essentially. Notably, she wound up occupying, I think it was Juno, from knowing where Jupiter was going to be. And as a result, Jupiter is able to, as Zeus or whatever you wish to call him, philander. And the curse was that she would later not be able to say anything of herself, but only repeat what was spoken to her, which is a heck of a curse. Well, anyway, Echo is out in the forest, and Narcissus is a hunter. And he comes across a body of water, and there's a curse involving Nemesis. Anyway, that he would never be able to come in contact with the thing he loves. It would drive him crazy. So he's out there, he finds this beautiful still body of water, he bends down to get a drink, and he sees his reflection, and he falls in love with himself, not knowing that that's actually his reflection. Um, and so as a result, he beats his breast. Some accounts he beats his breast purple and then dies. So he's like, oh, I can't, my heart breaks. And in its place, the flower, a narcissist, blooms, which is yellow and white. And to me, that reminds me of the sun, because the sun is a yellow white star. So the and Narcissus supplies himself as a good analogy for this process of the man, the divine man, penetrating through the seven spheres, recognizing or seeing himself, and then as a result, um, falls for a world of reality with a small r, departing the world of greater reality with the big R. Okay? Um, so the man looking into the depths, for he beheld a shadow upon the earth and a likeness mirrored in the waters, which shadow and likeness were a reflection of himself. Man fell in love with his own shadow and desired to descend into it. Coincident with the desire, the intelligent thing united itself with the unreasoning image or shape. So this is man being created from clay, unreasoning elements, right? And being housed within these unreasoning elements. They're just a part of you. Go for just we're going to go a little bit more, and then we'll pick this up next week. Nature, beholding the descent, wrapped herself about the man whom she loved, and the two were mingled. For this reason, earthy man is composite. Within him is the sky man, immortal and beautiful. Without is nature, mortal and destructible. Thus, suffering is the result of immortal man's falling in love with his shadow and giving up reality with a big R to dwell in the darkness of illusion. So we're here because we think that's what we want. For being immortal, man has the power of the seven governors, also the life, the light, and the word. But being mortal, he is controlled by the rings of the governors, fate or destiny. So within us is the capacity to draw upon all of the virtues of the seven governors, the seven planets, the system presented within the tree of life, because those seven principles, which we see embodied here and which we've discussed over the last couple years, right? Each of these principles, whether it's the principles embodied in Yesid or Hod or Netzik, these are principles that compose who and what we are. And the paths that exist between them represent our subjective experience among them. So subjectively, we have control, right? Because we are the subject. Objectively, they have control because they influence the greater environment around us. Another way to see that, it describes how nature wraps itself around man because it loves him. This means that all of the world is clothing us, all of it, for good or bad. Everything in your environment is part of you. It is it's inextricable from us. The fact that every time we drink water or breathe the air, we are in fact absorbing in totality the environment around us. We're getting that. Anytime we eat, we are consuming our environment. And so each of these governors represent aspects of that environment, which is part of us. So this is, so far in the Vision of Poimandres, we're getting the creation. In the second half of the vision, we're going to get our ascension. It's the core of path working. It's the thing that describes what our experience is as we work our way up. And what's really cool, kind of a spoiler for next week, is this. This is a graphical depiction of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, right? And so the Inferno is down here, right? That's that first book in the Divine Comedy. The Purgatorio is here, and there are 7 rings that you go up, and then the Paradisimo, which is ruled by different planetary influences. And you have to ascend upwards through each of these planetary influences to make it back to the prima mobile, which is the first swirling, the beginning, right? You get back to the divine. And interestingly enough, look at that. We get the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and then you get the cosmos. Where else can we see that? We can see that right here. Boom. Where we get the ascension, the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and oh yes, the cosmos right here. So Dante in his Paradisimo is actually showing you how to ascend and go back to God. But he's using poetry and his love, Beatrice, and before that, he, has Virgil walking him through all this. But he's taking it directly from here because this is the stuff. This is the mystery that has been taught not for centuries, but literally for thousands of years in the same form across all continents, which is why it was that image is just so dang important because this is on the one side of the Atlantic and it's on the other side of the Atlantic. It's taught everywhere. And so it's just super important, like it's the thing and understanding it supplies us with the tools to do the thing, to return and shed yourself of all this stuff, eventually. Anyway, I hope that's good. We're gonna do way more next time. There's more. There's a lot. You can see that just taking it a little bit at a time, it, it's important, I think, to just kind of work through a little bit at a time so that you can kind of see, as I read, I'm trying to pattern for you that this is a good technique. It's okay to stop and go, wait, that rings a bell, and then do a quick Google search and pull something up so that you can study it. Because as I was reading through this for the dozenth time, I found myself whipping out my Divine Comedy and going, this really does ring a bell. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's that. And so yeah, this is good stuff. I hope this has been fun, as much fun for you guys as it's been for me. I've had a great time. So
Yes.
well, it's a
I,
lot.
I, it is a lot. Yeah, I have notes and I can ask them on the Discord, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And
this reminds me of a movie I just watched. I don't know if you guys watched it. The diagram you just showed, the different rings. Damsel, whenever she was sacrificed and thrown into a cave,
Yeah.
mhm.
the dragon was chasing her, and she had to come up through all those different levels.
Oh, I
And
don't doubt for a minute they borrowed from this because
I
it's
was
good
just
stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and as you were talking about it just now, I'm like, oh, that's like totally. I could just see it. Like you were saying, you'll be able to see Kabbalah and the
Mhm.
triangle and everything, and it's just like,
Mhm.
whoa, yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Very cool. Well, thank you, you guys. I had a great time with you. Thank you for coming. I'll see you guys next week. And if you
Okay.
have any questions, hit the Discord up and I'll be sure to respond.
All right. Thank you, Aubrey.
You bet. We'll talk to
Bye,
you
Katie.
later.